Bonsoir à tous, toutes nos excuses pour le retard. Merci d'être ici à la Villa Le Pic pour la cérémonie de présentation du classement Brand Africa 100 2022. Donc, je suis Mélina Makissi et je vais vous accompagner tout au long de la soirée qui va se dérouler comme suit. Donc, tout d'abord, on va avoir la présentation. On va avoir le fondateur de cette initiative, donc, qui est TB Kalafang, qui va vous présenter la méthodologie qui lui a permis d'obtenir le classement des marques africaines les plus admirées en Afrique et en Côte d'Ivoire en particulier. Ensuite, il y aura un panel autour du thème qui a été retenu cette année, qui est donc Which brands do Africans regard as embracing African pride? Donc, excusez mon anglais, mais comprenez, pour les Africains, quelles sont les marques qui incarnent la fierté africaine? Il y aura donc une discussion autour de ce sujet avec le fondateur de Brand Africa 100 et une marque leader sur le continent. Et enfin, les résultats tant attendus vous seront dévoilés. Le classement 2022 des marques africaines les plus admirées sur le continent. Avec des applaudissements nourris, on va accueillir sans plus tarder TB Kalafang, le fondateur et le président de Brand Africa 100, une institution qui a 12 ans cette année. Donc TB, qu'on va demander si vous pouvez nous rejoindre. Donc il est d'origine sud-africaine, il s'exprimera donc en anglais, mais pour ceux qui ne maîtrisent pas la langue de Shakespeare, comme moi d'ailleurs, on a un traducteur ici avec nous qui se chargera de retranscrire ses propos et aussi les miens. Donc, je vais essayer d'aller un peu ralentir un peu le débit quand même pour lui. Ok, donc, bonsoir TV. Yes, good evening. Je vais vous laisser la parole pour nous expliquer votre méthodologie. Donc, quelle est la méthode Brand Africa 100 qui vous permet d'obtenir le classement des marques les plus admirées par les Africains? Donc, je vais vous laisser prendre la parole.
For those who didn't attend last year, I'll give a little bit of a background. So we started Brand Africa about 12 years ago, and what we wanted to do really is we wanted to try and understand why African brands are not doing as well in Africa as the non-African brands, and we were very concerned at that time. When I left corporate to go into consulting. And I said to myself, it's important that one gets to understand how Africans consume brands and what brands Africans are interested in. So the methodology that when we started in 12 years ago, we only had 8 countries. So we had 8 countries, mostly was sub-Sahara Africa, mostly SADC, around South Africa, Zimbabwe, those countries. And we tried to understand from those countries what brands they admire. And the way we did it at that time, we're doing face-to-face interviews. So we're interviewing consumers in those countries to try and understand what brands they love. But with time, we realized in 2015 that if we're going to do face-to-face, it's expensive and it takes long and it's just too complicated. But with a lot of Africans now who are using mobile and are using mobile for a lot of things, mobile for transactions, mobile for communication, mobile for everything else, we then decided let us partner with Geopol. And in our partnership with Geopol has got access to over 500 million Africans with mobiles up from Cape to Cairo. We partnered with the Geopol, and Geopol was able to give us the opportunity to be able to research Africans, to access Africans across the continent very quickly, very efficiently. So we ask them very basic questions, four key questions. The first question we ask them, what is your most admired African brand? The second question we ask them, what is your most admired, what's your most admired brand overall? Then second, we ask them, what's your most admired African brand? And the reason we did that is we realized when we just say what's your most admired brand, a lot of brands come into the picture. But we then realized that we must actually ask them what's your most admired African brand, because we wanted to say the difference, if there's a difference between African and just general brands. Then we also realized that on all those lists, a lot of brands like media and financial services were not coming up. So when we decided, let's also ask them, what's your most admired media brand? And the reason media doesn't come on is because a lot of media is fragmented. There's small media, so it's very difficult for Pan-African media or even for big regional media. Then we also ask them about financial services, because consumers, they view financial services and they view media as just functional brands. They don't view them as your big brands. So the methodology we focus really is quite basic. It's a telephonic interview. So rather on your mobile, it's a mobile interview. And the reason for mobile is because it's quick, it's effective, and it goes further. And a lot of Africans have got mobile. A lot of Africans have got smartphones now. So it was the easiest way that we can do it. So that's the methodology that we use. And that's a methodology that's used really across many research companies. But what we also did is we went from 8 countries, as I said, in 2012, to now 29 countries. So 29 countries in Africa. Those countries, when you combine those countries, collectively, they account...
How much country, how much country?
29.
29.
Yeah, 29. So 29 countries, and those 29 countries, they account for 85% of the population of Africa. They also account for over 85% of the GDP of Africa. So it means that it's probably the most comprehensive survey on brands in the continent. And it covers the most countries from North Africa, from Morocco to Egypt, all the way to Afrique du Sud, and Lesotho, countries as small as Lesotho, and all the way from Senegal and to the other end of the continent to Kenya. So all 4 corners of the continent, all 5 economic regions. So it's the most comprehensive survey. I hope I explained in a long way the methodology.
C'était très brillant. Merci TV pour cette brillante explication. On retient que le classement Brand Africa 100 analyse et répertorie les marques et les entreprises en Afrique à partir d'une étude de Géopol, qui est donc une application pour effectuer des enquêtes importantes réalisées dans 29 pays, ainsi qu'une analyse des données réalisées par Kantar, une entreprise britannique dédiée aux études de marché, et Brand Leadership, une filiale évidemment de Brand Africa 100. Je vous le disais, cela fait 12 ans que Brand Africa 100 existe. Aujourd'hui, l'institution panafricaine se développe avec la mise en place de bureaux un peu partout en Afrique, dont en Côte d'Ivoire. Brand Africa, et c'est une exclusivité qu'on va vous dévoiler ce soir, vient d'ouvrir un bureau à Abidjan. Il est présidé par Inès Ebanichi, qu'on va applaudir et qui va nous rejoindre pour nous expliquer les raisons de ce choix porté sur la Côte d'Ivoire. Bonsoir Inès, présidente de Brand Africa Côte d'Ivoire. Est-ce que vous pouvez présenter un peu ce bureau qui vient de s'ouvrir?
Bonsoir à tous. Merci Mélina. Désolée pour le retard. Alors, pour continuer un peu l'œuvre de Brand Africa en Afrique, on a décidé en fait d'ouvrir le pôle Côte d'Ivoire pour mettre en avant, faire la promotion des marques fortes et des marques ivoiriennes qui, si elles veulent briller au niveau mondial, doivent suivre un certain parcours, doivent se professionnaliser. Et donc voilà, donc c'était pour nous une évidence avec TB et Kwame Senou, qui est le vice-président de Brand Africa francophone, d'ouvrir cette branche-là en Côte d'Ivoire. Voilà, donc Brand Côte d'Ivoire va déployer bientôt ses activités à travers différentes phases qui seront de la sensibilisation, de l'éducation, de l'engagement aussi auprès des marques, des consommateurs, pour montrer que la Côte d'Ivoire aussi a des marques qui sont présentes, qui sont là et qui veulent briller au niveau africain et au niveau mondial aussi.
Merci Inès Ebagnechi, si vous pouvez l'applaudir s'il vous plaît. Merci pour cette belle présentation et plein de succès à Brand Africa Côte d'Ivoire pour ce nouveau bureau ivoirien. Alors, on va désormais passer au panel, toujours avec TB Ikalafang, le président et fondateur de Brand Africa 100. On va être rejoint aussi par Pascal Tano. Il est manager brand et médias chez MTN. Bonsoir Pascal Tano, merci d'être avec nous.
Bonsoir.
On va donc avoir une discussion autour du thème cette année. Donc je le rappelle, quelles sont les marques qui incarnent la fierté africaine pour les Africains? Donc première question, TB. Pour vous, quelles sont ces marques qui incarnent la fierté du continent?
You don't want me to give away the results now. So, but because I'm going to.
Non, mais au moins nous dire.
So, but I mean, I think conceptually, the brands that make African proud should be the brands that Africans are proud to be associated with.
Quels sont les critères?
And the brands that they believe that they carry with them the values of being Africa. That, you know, when you look at our continent, for example. When you look at brands like the Uniworks and all those, most of them are not African, but they look like us. They express who we are. So we want really brands like that to be us. But sometimes the brand does not necessarily have to be from Africa for Africans to be proud of the brand. It's how the brand communicates, how the brand engages with the consumers or the Africans that determines what kind of a brand makes one proud. So, but I can talk about the one last night. I was in Nigeria when we announced the brands that symbolize African pride, and Dangote was the number one brand across the continent, and it's very easy to explain why, because Dangote is an entrepreneur, very successful, African. So when he goes on the stage, Africans are proud to be associated with him. He started businesses that make life easy for Africans. You know, he started from cement to flour to oil and all those. So the brand that people are proud of are the brand that makes a difference, the brand that makes them, that connects with them and that understand who they are and that they're proud to be associated with.
On n'a pas encore les résultats de l'enquête de cette année, mais ce qu'on a pu apercevoir en tout cas des précédentes enquêtes, c'était que les marques les plus admirées en Afrique restent des marques étrangères, principalement occidentales. Comment on explique que ces marques-là sont toujours autant leaders sur le continent?
I know it's such a big challenge that 83% of the brands that Africans admire are non-African. So over the last 12 years, it's about 80% of the brands that us Africans admire. I think the challenge, there's two sides to the challenge. One could be historical, and the other ones could be philosophical. Maybe on a historical one, we always will say we don't have the advantage, we don't have the economy, the money, we don't have the experience, we don't have time. If you look at a brand like Coca-Cola, has been in Africa over 100 years. You look at a brand like Standard Chartered, in Africa over 100 years. So those brands have been around here for long. They've learned how to build brands for a long time. If you look at the average age of international brands, the average age of international brands is 80. The average age of African brands is 40. So so we really don't have the time in the market to be able to build brands. But I think from a philosophical perspective, or rather psychological perspective, the problem that 80-20 problem we have is because Africans are not proud of themselves. As Africans, we reject everything that is made in Africa. If something comes from Africa, we look down on it. And as a result, if somebody gives you a choice between an Ivorian bag and a Louis Vuitton, or with a Chloe, or with any, you're like, oh, Louis Vuitton is a better bag. But even though a local Ivorian bag may be better quality, because it also does a few things. The bag that's made here, it creates the jobs here. It pays the tax here. So that's the challenge. That's why we have this disparity between 80% and 20%. It's the African problem. We are the reasons that we are there. So until we change our mentality and our attitudes towards African brands, the problem will still persist.
Et comment est-ce qu'on l'explique? Est-ce que c'est la méfiance des consommateurs africains, ou est-ce que c'est de l'aliénation selon vous?
Well, I mean, to me, the challenge has always been that, and maybe let me expand further on that position. Let me expand further that. Also, when we have the opportunity as Africans to create something, we always take shortcut. So we take the shortcut. So as a result, the rest of the Africans lose confidence in anything made in Africa. So to me, those are some of the big problems that we face as a people. So, and until we reverse that trend, we won't be able to overcome this. But things are changing, because now you're seeing a lot of, you saw last year, a lot of the Ivorian brands, a lot of the Pan-African brands are beginning to rise. But also there's also a rise in pride in Africa. So Africans are now very proud to be called African. They're very proud to wear Africa. They're very proud to identify with Africa. So for example, if you come to Francophone Africa, they want to get a French passport, and not an Ivorian and a Senegalese and a Guinea passport. And if you go to, so those challenges, but now you begin to people say, oh, but I don't really need it. You begin to see people say, but why do we need CFR in Cote d'Ivoire? We should be using our own money. So when I was in Burkina Faso, they were protesting. They said, we don't want CFR here. We don't want our decisions to be made in France. We want our decisions to be made here in Africa. We want to use our own currency. So to me, those are some of the challenges that we face in the continent. There are much bigger problems that we have, but they start with each one of us.
Justement, j'avais une question à ce sujet, c'est qu'on a le sentiment en tout cas qu'on est dans une ère où l'Africain a envie aujourd'hui de consommer africain parce qu'il se rend compte de l'importance que cela représente. Mais est-ce que ça ne reste pas une tendance marginale qui reste très 2.0 dans les faits?
So, well, no. I think we need to keep explaining why it's important to buy local. We need to keep educating our own Africans on why it's important, and it's a very simple explanation. When you buy local, you are creating a job. You are keeping the tax money here, and the money that you keep for tax here develops the country, and the country develops. The country becomes independent and reduces its debt, and it's able to become successful. But we don't do that explanation well as Africans. We don't explain that well. So until we explain it well, until we explain that value chain well to every consumer, then we'll get there. And also, that's just the one side. And the other side is we just have to work on our heads. Our heads are still messed up. You know, we still haven't arrived at the point where we understand what does it mean to be an African. Because, you know, our history as a continent as well is we have not spent time to explain to ourselves and to define to ourselves what it means to be African.
Ah, merci TB. Vous qui êtes Pascal Tano, je le rappelle, vous représentez une marque qui est très influente en Côte d'Ivoire, mais aussi dans de nombreux pays africains. Comment est-ce que MTN est parvenu à obtenir ce rôle de leader?
Alors, le rôle de leader, enfin, disons que c'est simplement en se rendant utile, en étant une marque utile, vraiment. Je pense que c'est surtout ça le point clé, au-delà des biens et services, on va dire ça comme ça. Et il faut vraiment être... on a été apporteur de solutions sur plein de choses, apporteur de solutions sur des problématiques spécifiques et qui venaient vraiment aider les populations, les individus dans des situations données. Donc c'est vraiment le côté de marque utile, je pense, qui nous a amené à ça. Et d'ailleurs, aujourd'hui, on passe à un stade même supérieur, je dirais, puisqu'on est... on a une autre dimension de l'accompagnement qui n'est plus uniquement d'apporter des solutions, mais c'est aussi de motiver, d'inciter à une certaine action, justement cette catégorie d'Africains qui a le dynamisme dans le sang et qui cherche à entreprendre, qui se transforme. On est justement passé à ce niveau d'incitation.
Justement, quels conseils pourriez-vous donner aux marques et jeunes marques aussi, parce qu'on voit de plus en plus de jeunes entreprendre, des entrepreneurs qui se lancent. Quels conseils pourriez-vous leur donner pour atteindre le niveau de MTN et pourquoi pas même surpasser MTN dans leur domaine et aussi être admirés par les Africains?
Mais le conseil le plus simple que je pourrais donner, c'est justement ça, c'est de mettre l'individu au cœur de leurs actions. Voilà. Ne pas penser uniquement mercantile, mais aussi de penser solution, en fait, de se vouloir utile en mettant les besoins des personnes au cœur de leur action.
Donc penser solution, question ouverte à tous les deux. C'est ça le critère principal pour obtenir l'admiration des consommateurs africains? Ou est-ce qu'il y a autre chose aussi qui devrait entrer en jeu?
Le partage de valeurs, oui, comme l'a souligné TV tout à l'heure, le partage de valeurs est important, mais je dirais que l'aspect de solution est quand même prédominant. Tant qu'on est utile, on finit par avoir cet impact-là auprès des gens.
TV, un petit mot peut-être?
I think that's such an important a point that you make, that a brand does not just exist to make money, or any business does not exist to make money. A business exists to solve a problem, to elevate people, to take people to places they never dreamed of. So, and I think you're so right that it has to be very meaningful. So for other brands to be successful, to reach the levels of the MTNs and all those many other brands, they have to make a meaningful difference in the lives of people. And that meaningful difference is not just jobs. If you look at, let's just speak to MTN because we have MTN here. It's not just about telephone, because that telephone helps people to transact with mobile money. It helps people to connect, to communicate. It helps people to read news online. So it makes a bigger difference. So it cuts down the need to, or the cost of doing business. So that's being meaningful in the lives of people. And I think that's what brands should do. So the brands that don't do well, that don't last, are the brands that do not do anything meaningful for the consumers. And meaningful, not just for the individual, but also from the community from where they come from. So it has to lift as it rises.
On a pu le voir dans vos précédentes enquêtes, les marques étrangères les plus influentes en Afrique sont très souvent des marques qui proposent des produits électroniques ou alors des équipements sportifs. Comment est-ce qu'on l'explique et comment les marques africaines qui proposent ces mêmes services, si elles existent, peuvent prendre le lead sur le continent?
So such an important question. So Nike has been number one for 5 years in a row. But I think what brands like Nike do well, and having spent 6 years working for Nike, is I learned a few things. That what they do well is they invest in R&D, but also the one thing I learned in marketing when we're marketing the brand is you have to appeal to the hearts and the aspirations of people. So that's why when they create product and when they do create communication, it is always inspirational, but it's always performance driven. It always makes a difference. So for African brands, if they're going to get into the sport and fitness, I mean, if you go to Southern Africa in Botswana, there was a local brand which decided to sponsor, to create a jersey, soccer jersey. So they said, we don't want, the Sport Federation said, we don't want Nike, we don't want Adidas, we want a local product. So what happened? The local entrepreneur created a jersey for the sport, for the national team, and the jersey elevated the country's brands. And all the entrepreneurs now started saying, oh, we can also create a product for our own people. Because I think what we need is not just about the things I've said, but you also need sponsorship, you need opportunity. You need people to give you a chance. So the federation in Botswana says, we'll give a local company a chance to create a jersey for our national team. That's important. Instead of saying maybe, let's go to China, go get it cheaper, because it's going to be cheaper. No, rather say, how do we help the local entrepreneur to build and to build from here?
Je le disais, cela
They'll arrive there,
fait...
don't worry, they will get there with time. They just have to be confident and
Il
they
faut,
have to
il
be
faut.
aggressive and they have to say no.
Bien sûr, on n'en doute pas. Je le disais, cela fait 12 ans que Brand Africa 100 existe. Déjà, félicitations. En 12 ans, est-ce qu'il y a eu une évolution que vous avez observée dans les choix des consommateurs africains?
Oh, of course, over the last 12 years, African consumers have changed a lot. If you look at the financial services brands now, and even the media brands, you're going to notice that there's a lot of technology-driven brands. Because now, as Africans, because we no longer can survive on bricks and mortar, technology has changed a lot. Technology has broken barriers. We're able to travel to places we could never go without moving. We're able to create content. We own our own content. So what are you seeing now? You're seeing consumers are also creators, and consumers are also the gatekeepers. They decide how to speak to them. They create their own content. They are their own marketing directors, their own creative directors. So that's changed a lot, and it's all because of technology. I mean, if you look at the top 100 brands, China owns seven of the top 100 brands. All of them are in technology. All of them are electronics and technology. So because they understand that's where the power lies now. You look at right now, it's the Netflix and all those, because that's where we are. And COVID, which we all going through still or have gone through, was also another important marker in how the consumers are changing. Because now we are owning our time and we don't have to go anywhere else. We can create everything we want within our space on our own terms. So COVID was also another transformational time for the African consumer.
Merci TB Kalafang et Pascal Tano pour cet échange très édifiant sur le comportement des consommateurs sur le continent. Vous pouvez regagner votre place, Pascal Tano. Merci infiniment. TB, c'est le moment très attendu, hein, c'est le moment de la révélation. En 2022, quelles sont les marques qui sont les plus admirées en Afrique et en Côte d'Ivoire en particulier? Est-ce qu'on devrait, avant que vous nous révéliez tout ça, est-ce qu'on devrait s'attendre à des surprises cette année?
Do we have surprises? Yes, we have surprises. I think we have surprises, in particular in the media. When I looked at the media for Côte d'Ivoire, and I was like, wow. From last year to this year, the big change. And I try to understand, because when you see the change, you then engage with because the research shows you one thing. And then I called the team, the Inez and everybody, the Kwames, and did a bit of research. And I said, why did it change so much? And I understood why it changed. So I don't want to give away the change. So there's that change. But there's also, if you look at the top 100, so let's forget Cote d'Ivoire, look at the top 100, 2 South African brands, which were created 3 years ago, are in the top 100. And it was astounding, but I understand why. Because they opened 30 shops in one year each during COVID. In the 18 months of COVID, they opened 30 shops. They own their own retail. They spend millions in advertising. The owners are both under the age of 35. They are on social media. They are on e-commerce. They spend millions on TV, on outdoor, and the news have traveled beyond the continent, and they've inspired other people in other countries, in Kenya, in Nigeria, who also say we need to create this. And they created it in the area we spoke about, sport lifestyle. So the Nikes and the Adidas and the Pumas are watching that, and they're like, what's happening here with these 2 brands? So of course, to me, I think that was a big surprise. It was a big surprise for the Pan-African. It was a big surprise for me in Côte d'Ivoire, when we'll speak about Côte d'Ivoire in a minute.
Ok, bon, bah, je vous laisse nous dévoiler donc ce classement, TB.
Thank you. Can I use the remote? So what I'll do is, so the big cover story that you will see when the the magazine comes out in the next few days is that African brands have rebounded. African brands have rebounded better than before. But of course, the dominant players are still the 3 countries. It's still Southern Africa with 56% of the brands. You look at West Africa with 24%. You look at East Africa with 20%. So those 3 countries are still the dominant brand building countries in the continent. So I want to just take you a little bit about the rest of the continent, then I'll bring it down to Côte d'Ivoire. So where are the big brands coming from? They're coming from America. They're coming from America. You can see with America, 28% of the top 100 come from one country, America. The next big country is China and Japan with 7 each. Of course, Europe is several countries in Europe, and then Asia. So the other big change this year is how Africa and Asia moved up the rank, increased the number of rankings of brands, and Africa with 17%. So now, if you look at the big categories, it's still electronics. You know, it's probably more so now because with COVID and with digital breaking barriers, so they'll still be the biggest driver of that. Consumer non-cyclicals and automobile, we need to move around, right? So if you look at the brands, the big brands for different countries, you look at the US, as I said, the US, the biggest driver of brands are 28. You look at, and the number 1 brand from the US, Nike, the number 1 brand from China, Techno, the number 1 brand from Japan, Toyota, number 1 brand from, and then in the top 3 African countries, number 1 brand from South Africa, MTN, the number 1 brand from Nigeria, Dangote, and the number 1 brand from Ethiopia, Ethiopian Airways. I mean, Ethiopian Airways, what a beautiful story. During COVID, they grew, and they were moving goods, cargo across. When South African Airways was dying, Kenya was dying, Egypt Air was dying, Ethiopian was growing. But you also know that because you've seen the story. So that's the big story now this year. The big story is 83% of the brands that Africans admire are non-African. It's better than last year at 87%, but it is still, it's a big improvement in terms of where we are. But of course, to me, it's an 83% opportunity for Africans to create great brands. So let's look at the most admired brands quickly. Just quickly run through this. Most admired brands in Africa: Nike, Adidas, Samsung, the top three category. So the top 10 is largely unchanged from the past. Coca-Cola has been on the tables for every single year we've done the category, been in the top 5. And Nike has also been around there. Samsung has been around there. You know, the thing with the big brands is we don't change our head about Africa, or you don't mention the word Africa, MTN. MTN is the most admired brand in Africa. The most admired media brands in Africa, DSTV, because otherwise without DSTV we can't watch the good programming from everywhere else. Then BBC, very big. And then you can see where you probably most, Francophone Africa is driven by Canal Plus, obviously. North Africa is Al Jazeera. Anglophone Africa is DSTV with all those Anglophone brands. But you can see also where people put MTN as media, because they use the phone to check the news. They use the phone to read. So when it comes to finance brands, look at finance brands. GT Bank from Nigeria, EcoBank, and you can see the brands. Mostly, or all of them Anglophone, except Bank of Africa, I think it's in Morocco. Where is it? No, it's not Morocco, it's what's this? Forget the country now. So let's look at most admired brands that symbolize African pride. Symbolize African pride: Dangote, Ethiopian Airways, MTN, the top 3. So quite interesting as well. That this question, which was a new question we put this year, we said the brands which symbolize African pride. And Dangote, because as I said earlier, we know the person, we can recognize the person, we can relate to him, he looks like us, so we get pride out of that. Ethiopian Airways, they say the spirit of Africa, the biggest African airline. All the African airlines combined, if you combine their number of aeroplanes, equal Ethiopian Airways. That's how strong the brand is. And then MTN, we know, the biggest mobile. But all those 1, 2, 3, 4 brands, we know how meaningful they are in our lives. They connect us, they build our place, they move us. That's meaning. So if you look at where the brands come, by countries, CDI, Samsung. So we'll come to the rest of it. So let's start with your brands now. Let's narrow. So we'll start first with Francophone. We'll start first with the Francophone. So starting, Ines, will you come join me so we can recognize? Let's come and recognize. So the number one, who's going to help us here? Who knows? You're going to help us with that. So the most admired French brand in Francophone Africa, Orange. We have a representative from Orange here? So Orange is fine. So the most admired French media brand in Francophone Africa, Canal Plus. We know Canal Plus? So Canal Plus, we got someone for Canal Plus? Yes. Yes. Congratulations. Thank you. Do you want to say anything?
No, just thank you.
Just thank you. Thank you is good enough. That's all. Thank you is more important. Most of brides, so do we go through that? Oh yeah. Oh no. And then we ask the question. Earlier I said, sometimes we ask them which brand symbolize pride in Africa. It doesn't even have to be an African brand, as you can see from Orange. That Orange is that brand. Then the most admired French financial services brand in Francophone Africa, Société Générale. Got somebody from Société Générale? We do? Oh, wow. Congratulations. 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 You want to say a word or two?
Thank you.
Just thank you. Thank you. Thank you is a lot of words these days. Then we go to so now we focus so because we're in Francophone and because of the strength of the history of France in Francophone, so we decided, I think last year, right, let's look at the French brands in Africa. So we look at some of the strength of the French brands. So the leading French brands in Africa, Lacoste. But we know that we see it everywhere. So whether it's in the shirts, I'm sure there'll be a Lacoste or two around here today. There's always Lacoste. So Lacoste, Orange, and Louis Vuitton. So what's so interesting is those brands are always, most of them are the luxury brands, because France dominates in the luxury space. And that's pretty much. So when you see the most admired French media brands in Africa, Canal Plus, another one for Canal, you've done very. It's going to be a Canal Plus. Then we went to the most admired French financial services brands in Africa, Société Générale again. But it's quite interesting, these brands, when we see them, because when you go to Anglophone countries, it will be Standard Bank. When you go down, it will be GT Bank. When you go into West Africa, and when you come to Francophone Africa, it will be Société. Congratulations, sir. And then the most admired French brand that symbolizes African pride, Orange. Orange should have been here, right? They're having fun today. So now let's narrow down to where we are today in Cote d'Ivoire. So the leading brands in Cote d'Ivoire, 3, Nike, 2, Adidas. It's like the global brands, Number 1, Samsung. So Samsung is a very strong brand. We know Samsung is strong because the mobiles are all Samsung. They sponsor the football, sponsor the footballers. I think is Drogba still everywhere? All the billboards are Drogba. They were from Samsung. So, and you can see the top 10. And interesting, if you look at the top 10 as well, nothing from, just broadly. So the most admired African brands in Cote d'Ivoire, Dinor, Solibra, MTN. The people at, congratulations again. You spoke a lot about MTN. You spoke a lot about how MTN has to be meaningful. Do you want to say one more word? You have.
Je vais faire comme tout le monde. Je vais dire merci. Voilà.
So this is very important for the people at MTN. I know Ralph Mupita and everybody at MTN. the African award means so much to them because they want to position themselves as that African brand. So it's quite an important. Let's see who the top 10 in that space were. Consider top. But I mean, you can see how you've got quite a few number of brands in that space which come from this part of the world. So, and that's quite important as well to me that we want to do. It's a very interesting question. This we want to see where it goes next year. The most admired media brands in Côte d'Ivoire. I think last year RTI was number 1. Surprise. Live TV. Do we have someone from Live TV here? Where's the You're here. Come get your TV live. So I was trying to understand why live TV is so successful. And they said to me, the research and everybody said, live TV is doing amazing this year. So you have to explain to us. Merci beaucoup is not enough.
Vraiment, merci infiniment. Merci beaucoup. Merci à toute la population pour le soutien. Nous allons davantage continuer pour vous faire plaisir. Merci beaucoup.
So, thank you. So understand in this last, when we're speaking to the teams here and trying to understand that a lot of the media brands, they rest on their laurels, they stay on their course, but life was quite active during the last 18 months of those engaging, innovating, and communicating throughout that time. Because we said, who's this live TV? How are they knocking RTI out of the pedestal so quickly? And interesting. So congratulations. So you can see the top 10 media brands in Africa. So the most admired financial services brands, well, just across our board. 3 to 1. 3 to 1. And so let's go to back there. EcoBank, Société Générale. Société Générale, you just came third, second now. You can't win them all, right? And NCA, what a strong brand. What a very strong brand. And then you can see the brands from your part of the world. The most admired brand that symbolizes African pride. Dangote. NCA. MTN. So pride. So most African and pride. So I think it's still merci beaucoup. And you can see the top 10. And then now we come into the Ivorian brands. So remember, we just had brands in Ivory Coast. Now we say Ivorian brands themselves. Most admired media brands in Ivory Coast, 3, 2, Life Again. Life Again twice. Now remember, the first category was just any media brand in Côte d'Ivoire. The second one is Ivorian media brand. So, congratulations. He's going to say merci beaucoup, so we don't ask him. You can see the list. Then we come to the most admired Ivorian financial services brands. And here again. The list. Then we come to the most admired brand that symbolizes pride. Sir, Solibra, and Sia. Are you surprised? You guys are surprised? No? The candle list. To close, the number one Ivorian brand. Dino, Encia. What are the guesses? Guesses? Any guesses? What is it? No, but it's Ivorian, Ivorian. Huh? Solibra. So, are you from Solibra? Oh. So, as the number one brand in Ivorian brand, you can't say merci beaucoup, it's not good enough. C'est pas beau.
Merci. Je commence par dire merci d'abord avant de faire le discours. J'ai participé vraiment à une belle cérémonie. C'était un enseignement pour nous, des hommes de médias et des brands. Et je constate que Solibra fait toujours partie de la vie des Ivoiriens, que ce soit les moments difficiles, et même les moments de joie, et même pour célébrer les victoires, on est toujours là. Donc c'est normal qu'on soit la marque la plus admirée. Merci à tous. Et puis merci à vous aussi pour votre initiative. Et j'espère qu'on se retrouvera très bientôt encore et puis que je serai toujours le premier, Solibra. Je vais parler de tous les employés, de la société, toute la marque. Merci. Et félicitations aux autres aussi.
And that concludes our evening. You can look at the rest of the brands, the Ivorian brands. And then that's your top 100 brands in the continent. Congratulations to everybody from Côte d'Ivoire, everybody Africa or West Francophone Africa, everybody who came here tonight. Truly appreciate you guys spending the time to do this. Let's build those brands. We need to build those brands because as we build those brands, we are building Africa. As we build Africa, we're becoming independent, become successful, and we're becoming proud. Because we cannot be the continent where everybody is always asking, the continent is always asking. We need to be the continent that also gives. And not a continent where people just comes and takes, but we need a continent where people pay a fair price. And for them to pay a fair price, we need to create value into our brands and for our brands to be valuable and admired. Let's go build those great brands, and I will see you all on top of Kilimanjaro. Thank you. And now I'll hand over to this wonderful woman who is the president for Brang Côte d'Ivoire, doing an amazing work, and she's going to build these brands here and do an amazing job. Congratulations on tonight, and it's over to you. Thank you so much.
Merci tout le monde, merci TB pour ces résultats. Comme il a dit, cette année, beaucoup de surprises par rapport à l'année dernière. De belles marques ivoiriennes qui font la fierté de la Côte d'Ivoire et on l'espère qui auront un rayonnement au niveau africain. Et félicitations à toutes ces marques incroyables qui font un véritable travail au quotidien pour les consommateurs ivoiriens. Et merci à tous d'être venus. Et puis on a hâte de dévoiler toutes les activités de Brand Côte d'Ivoire et de pouvoir travailler avec vous tous les jours pour amener la Côte d'Ivoire et ses marques au niveau mondial et africain. Merci.
Merci TB, merci Inès, merci à tout le monde pour votre attention. TB, vous vouliez décerner des trophées à deux personnalités ivoiriennes qui font la fierté du continent.
So this year what we then did, we then went further than what we've done in the past. So we didn't just stop at the brands. So we then got together as a committee to decide which individuals are really driving that revolution, which individuals are really making the continent proud and building, championing Made in Africa brands. So I'm going to ask, I'm going to hand over to Inez to announce the personal persons that we are very proud of being associated with in the continent.
Merci TB. Alors, on a 2 trophées à remettre aujourd'hui. Le premier, c'est pour une personne du coup qui...
Je vais t'aider, Inès.
D'accord, merci.
Alors, on a donc 2 trophées à décerner à 2 personnalités ivoiriennes qui font la fierté africaine. Il s'agit donc de Jean Kakou Djagou, le président fondateur de Insia Bank, en reconnaissance de son leadership inspirant dans la construction et la croissance des marques africaines responsables de classe mondiale. Et il y a aussi Martine Kofi Studer, fondatrice de Océan Ogilvy, société de publicité présente dans 20 pays africains, en reconnaissance de son leadership inspirant et sa contribution inestimable à l'industrie et à la croissance des marques africaines de classe mondiale.
D'accord, je crois que le représentant de Madame Studer est là ce soir, donc on pourra lui remettre son trophée.
Merci à vous. Madame la ministre me charge de vous encourager, de vous dire bravo pour cette initiative et que les prochaines années soient un succès. Merci pour cette belle cérémonie. Vous savez que quelqu'un a dit un jour que les marques constituent les intangibles qui constituent aussi elles-mêmes la valeur intrinsèque d'une entreprise. Et il est important d'apporter une attention particulière à chaque marque africaine. Et je vous encourage pour cette initiative. Merci.
Thank you so much.
Ok, donc merci TB, merci Inès à nouveau. On arrive au terme de cette cérémonie. TB, peut-être un dernier mot avant de conclure, avant de terminer cette cérémonie.
Thank you. No, I think from my end, it's really thank you for the warm welcome I always get in Ivory Coast, in Côte d'Ivoire, with the wonderful people here, wonderful food, wonderful everything, wonderful weather, beautiful people. Most importantly, building great brands is what we're all about. I think we were speaking earlier outside that. It's not how many people are here now. It's how many people are inspired by the news and how this news goes on to inspire them to build great brands. And today is a public holiday, but you already have the room full of people here, and you've got the media, the news is going to go out. Congratulations from me, because you're beginning an important journey here of recognizing and encouraging Ivorians to build great Ivorian brands, and especially in the region which has had a lot of allegiance to France, if you will. This journey is quite important, and it's not about separating France, but it is about ensuring that you're also able to elevate those indigenous Ivorian brands, which can sit side by side with our French brands, because we cannot run away from our history. We will always wear the Louis Vuittons, the Gucci's, drive the Ferraris, and spread our President butter on our bread. So we'll always do that. But what will be beautiful is if we can do that, and we do that with also our local brands the same way. And we also pay the same amount that we pay for our local brands as we do for international brands. To me, that is the challenge. that we face, and that's the opportunity that faces us. It's not about kicking out international brands, but it is about giving them a stiff competition in our countries and making sure that with the more competition we give them, the better they become and the better we become as well, because we are a better people. Congratulations. Thank you for having me in Côte d'Ivoire.
Merci, merci, merci infiniment, TB Ikalafong, président et fondateur de Brand Africa 100. Merci également à Inès Epanici, donc présidente de Brand Africa Côte d'Ivoire, qui a désormais un bureau ici à Abidjan. Donc à nouveau, plein de succès pour cette mission. Remercier aussi Pascal Tano d'avoir échangé avec nous lors du panel. Merci à vous d'avoir participé à cette cérémonie. Merci pour votre attention, pour votre écoute. Et puis, on va souhaiter une très bonne soirée à tout le monde. Et puis, plein de succès aussi aux marques africaines, bien sûr, et ivoiriennes en particulier.